Every gardener knows the heartbreaking feeling of watching their garden stall. You spend weeks starting seeds indoors, carefully hardening them off, and planting them in what you hope is the perfect spot. You water them diligently, pull every weed, and shield them from pests. Yet as the weeks roll by, your tomatoes, bell peppers, and eggplants just seem to sit there. They aren't dying, but they aren't thriving either. Their growth is painfully slow. Their leaves lack that deep, vibrant green luster, and the few flowers they produce drop off before they can set fruit. It is incredibly frustrating, and it makes many people want to throw in the towel. Most gardeners don't know this, but the problem is rarely with the plants themselves. Instead, the issue lies deep beneath the surface, hidden from view in the soil. You can pour the most expensive synthetic fertilizers onto your garden bed, but if your soil biology is dormant, your plants will remain starved. Plants cannot simply absorb raw minerals directly from the dirt. They rely on a complex living network of microscopic organisms to break down nutrients and deliver them to their root systems in a form they can actually digest. When this microbial activity is low, your soil becomes a biological desert, locking up nutrients and leaving your plants stunted. Fortunately, there is a simple natural solution that has been passed down through generations of master gardeners. It is a time-tested secret that costs pennies to make, uses basic kitchen ingredients, and can completely transform the health of your garden. This remedy doesn't just feed your plants, it wakes up the soil, creating a thriving underground ecosystem that allows your tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants to reach their full genetic potential. Before we dive into how to make this powerful solution, we need to understand the warning signs of a starved soil ecosystem. When plants are struggling to absorb nutrients due to poor soil biology, they will tell you. The first sign is often a subtle yellowing of the lower leaves, while the veins remain green. This is a classic indicator of nutrient lockup. Another clear sign is thin, spindly stems that bend easily under the slightest breeze. If your plants are producing flowers that turn yellow at the joint and fall off instead of turning into tiny green fruits, your soil is desperately crying out for help. The secret to unlocking your soil's hidden potential lies in a common household ingredient: active dry yeast. While most people associate yeast with baking bread or brewing beer, experienced organic gardeners know it as a biological powerhouse. Yeast is actually a single-celled living fungus. When introduced to the soil, it acts as a catalyst, triggering a massive chain reaction of beneficial microbial activity. It doesn't just sit in the soil, it actively stimulates the resident bacteria, encouraging them to multiply rapidly and break down organic matter at an accelerated rate. Here's where the real secret begins. Yeast is packed with highly concentrated proteins, amino acids, B-complex vitamins, and essential trace minerals. When you apply it to your garden, you aren't just adding nutrients. You are introducing a living biological stimulator. This stimulator encourages the growth of mycorrhizal fungi, which form a symbiotic relationship with your plant's roots. These fungi act as an extension of the root system, reaching deep into the soil to grab water and nutrients that the plant could never reach on its own. The result is a massive, robust root system capable of supporting heavy yields of tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. To harness the incredible power of this natural biostimulant, you must prepare it correctly. This is the step many people skip, resulting in an ineffective solution or, worse, harming their plants. The preparation process is simple, but it requires precision and an understanding of how living microorganisms behave. To begin, you will need a clean glass jar with a capacity of at least 1.5 liters. It is crucial that the jar is thoroughly cleaned and free of any chemical soap residues, as these can easily kill the delicate yeast cells before they even have a chance to activate. Fill the jar with exactly 1 liter of lukewarm water. The temperature of this water is the single most important factor in the entire process. It must be gently warm, ideally right around 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Most gardeners don't realize that yeast is highly sensitive to temperature. If the water is too cold, the yeast will remain dormant and fail to activate. If the water is even slightly too hot, you will scald and kill the living organisms, rendering your solution completely useless. If you don't have a thermometer, test the water on the inside of your wrist. It should feel comfortably warm, like bath water for a baby. Additionally, if you are using municipal tap water, let it sit out in an open container for 24 hours beforehand. This allows any chlorine or chloramine to evaporate, as these sanitizing chemicals are designed to kill microbes, including your beneficial yeast. Once your water is at the perfect temperature, add 10 grams of active dry yeast to the jar. This is roughly equivalent to 3 level teaspoons. As the yeast settles onto the surface of the water, you will notice it slowly beginning to absorb moisture. Do not stir it immediately. Let it sit on the surface for a minute or two to rehydrate. Next, you will need to add 1 tablespoon of granulated white sugar. This is not just a sweetener. It acts as rocket fuel for the yeast. In their dry state, the yeast cells are asleep. To wake them up and get them multiplying, they need an immediate, easily digestible source of energy. Sugar provides exactly that. The yeast will consume the sugar, converting it into energy, carbon dioxide, and a rich cocktail of plant-boosting compounds. Now, using a clean wooden spoon or a glass rod, stir the mixture slowly and gently until both the yeast and the sugar are fully dissolved. Avoid using metal utensils if possible, as some metals can react with the yeast and inhibit its growth. Once everything is dissolved, you will notice the water turning a cloudy, milky beige color. This is the beginning of the fermentation process. Place the jar in a warm, dark place, such as a kitchen pantry or a cozy corner of your countertop. Do not seal the jar with a tight lid. As the yeast consumes the sugar, it will release carbon dioxide gas. If the jar is sealed tightly, pressure will build up, which can cause the glass to crack or shatter. Instead, cover the top of the jar with a clean piece of cheesecloth or a paper towel secured with a rubber band. This allows the mixture to breathe while keeping out dust and pesky fruit flies. Let the mixture sit undisturbed for at least 2 hours. During this time, a fascinating biological transformation will take place inside the jar. If you check on it after 30 minutes, you will see a thick, frothy layer of foam forming on the surface of the liquid. You will also begin to smell a rich, sweet, bready aroma. This is a clear sign that the yeast is alive, active, and multiplying by the billions. What happened next surprised me when I first tried this years ago. After 2 hours, the solution will be teeming with life, but it is far too concentrated to apply directly to your plants. Applying this raw, concentrated yeast mixture directly to the soil can actually cause a temporary nitrogen draft, as the rapidly multiplying yeast cells consume the available nitrogen in the immediate area to build their own proteins. To prevent this and ensure the solution is gentle enough for delicate plant roots, you must dilute it. The golden rule for yeast fertilizer is a 1:10 dilution ratio. Take exactly 100 milliliters of your activated yeast solution and mix it thoroughly with 1 liter of clean, room temperature water. This dilution maintains a perfectly balanced microbial environment, ensuring that when you apply it to your garden, the plants can absorb the unlocked nutrients safely, efficiently, and without any risk of root shock. As your tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants transition from their vegetative growth phase into the flowering and fruiting stage, their nutritional demands shift dramatically. During the early stages of life, these plants focus primarily on building leaves and stems, requiring higher amounts of nitrogen. However, once they begin to set flower buds, their internal chemistry changes. At this critical juncture, the plants require a massive influx of energy and specific nutrients to support flower development, pollen viability, and eventually fruit growth. If the plant does not receive adequate nutrition at this exact moment, it will abort its flowers to save its own life, leaving you with a beautiful green bush, but absolutely no harvest. This is why maintaining healthy, biologically active soil becomes incredibly important during the blooming phase. Before you apply your newly created yeast solution, you must prepare the soil around your plants. This is a step that many novice gardeners skip, but it makes a world of difference in how effectively the nutrients are absorbed. Begin by carefully removing any weeds growing around the base of your plants. Weeds are highly efficient thieves. They will gladly steal the rich nutrients you are about to apply, leaving your vegetables with the leftovers. Once the area is clear, take a small hand cultivator or hand fork and gently loosen the top layer of soil around the drip line of the plant. Be extremely careful not to dig too deeply. Tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants have highly sensitive, shallow feeder roots that grow just beneath the surface. If you damage these roots, you will stress the plant and delay its growth. The goal here is simply to break up any hard, crusty surface soil. This simple act of aeration improves airflow, allowing oxygen to reach the root zone, and creates tiny pathways for water and nutrients to penetrate deeply and evenly. Now we must address the specific nutritional needs of fruiting plants. While yeast is incredible for stimulating soil life and unlocking existing nutrients, blooming plants require a substantial boost of potassium. Potassium is the element responsible for regulating water movement within the plant, activating enzymes for protein synthesis, and driving the development of large, sweet, and juicy fruits. To provide this essential nutrient naturally, we turn to another classic gardener's secret: clean wood ash. Wood ash obtained from burning untreated hardwood is an exceptional, fast-acting source of natural potassium, calcium, and over a dozen trace minerals. It acts as the perfect companion to our yeast solution. Here is how to apply it safely. Take a small handful of dry wood ash and scatter it in a thin, even ring around the base of your plant, keeping it right under the outer edge of the leaf canopy, also known as the drip line. It is vital that you never place the ash directly against the main stem of the plant. Wood ash is highly alkaline, and if it comes into direct contact with the tender bark of the stem, it can cause localized chemical burns and stress the delicate surface roots. By keeping it a few inches away from the stem, you ensure the roots can safely forage for the nutrients as they leach into the soil. Once the wood ash is in place, do not apply the yeast solution immediately. There is one more crucial preparatory step. You must lightly water the soil with clean, plain water first. This is a fundamental rule of organic fertilizing. Applying any active nutrient solution to bone-dry soil can shock the dry root hairs, causing them to shrivel and lose their capacity to absorb water. By pre-moistening the soil, you create a gentle, welcoming environment. The moisture acts as a buffer, protecting the roots from sudden changes in osmotic pressure and allowing the beneficial microbes in the yeast solution to integrate seamlessly into the soil matrix. With your soil properly prepared, weeded, aerated, dusted with wood ash, and pre-moistened, you are finally ready to apply the diluted yeast solution. This is where the magic truly happens. Using a watering can with the rose attachment removed, slowly and gently pour the diluted yeast mixture around the root zone of your plants. As you pour, watch how the liquid behaves. Because you loosen the topsoil, the milky solution should sink in immediately, disappearing deep into the earth rather than pooling on the surface or running off. The moisture from the yeast solution serves a dual purpose. It instantly begins to dissolve the potassium and calcium from the wood ash, carrying these vital minerals down into the root zone where they can be immediately absorbed by the plant. At the same time, the activated yeast cells settle into their new home, immediately beginning to feed on organic matter and stimulating the local beneficial bacteria. Let's look at how to apply this to a young eggplant, or aubergine. Eggplants belong to the Solanaceae family, making them close cousins to tomatoes and peppers. Because they share the same lineage, they have nearly identical nutritional desires. Eggplants are notorious for being heavy feeders and can be quite finicky if the soil biology is sluggish. Just like with the tomatoes, begin by watering the soil around the eggplant with plain water. Then take your diluted yeast solution and apply it slowly around the base, taking extra care to avoid splashing the leaves. While yeast is incredibly beneficial in the soil, leaving wet, sugary residue on the foliage of eggplants or tomatoes can attract unwanted pests or create a damp environment where harmful foliar fungal spores can take root. Always keep your applications focused strictly on the soil. This natural biostimulant is highly effective, but like all good things in gardening, consistency is key. For the best results, incorporate this yeast solution into your routine once every 10 days throughout the active growing season. This 10-day cycle aligns perfectly with the natural reproductive cycles of soil microorganisms, ensuring a steady, uninterrupted population of beneficial bacteria and fungi working on behalf of your plants. The results became visible just days later, and they are truly a sight to behold. If you observe your garden closely, you will notice the first changes within 48 to 72 hours. The leaves of your tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants will take on a noticeably deeper, richer shade of green. This is because the increased microbial activity in the soil has unlocked a steady stream of bioavailable nitrogen and iron, boosting chlorophyll production and supercharging the plant's photosynthesis engine. By the end of the first week, you will notice a dramatic increase in stem thickness. The plants will no longer look spindly or fragile. Instead, they will stand robust and strong, ready to support the weight of a heavy harvest. But the most exciting transformation happens around the 10-day mark. You will see an explosion of new, healthy flower buds emerging from every branch joint. Unlike before, these flowers will not turn yellow and drop off. Thanks to the potassium from the wood ash and the biological stimulation from the yeast, the flowers will open wide, attract pollinators, and set fruit with incredible efficiency. Within a few weeks of regular use, your garden will look completely unrecognizable. Your once stunted tomatoes will be loaded with clusters of plump, ripening fruit. Your pepper plants will be sturdy, upright bushes heavy with thick-walled, glossy peppers. And your eggplants will produce those magnificent deep purple fruits that are the pride of any backyard gardener. This simple natural method proves that you don't need expensive, chemical-laden fertilizers to achieve a spectacular harvest. By understanding the relationship between your plants and the living soil, and by using simple ingredients like yeast, sugar, and wood ash, you can work in harmony with nature to unlock your garden's true potential. If you found these practical gardening insights helpful and want to discover more time-tested secrets to growing your most productive garden yet, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Sharing your experiences helps our gardening community grow, so please leave a comment below letting me know what vegetables you are growing this season and how this natural yeast solution works in your own backyard. Thank you so much for watching and happy gardening. I look forward to sharing more practical, natural gardening tips with you in our next video.